jurisdiction was created by state law. I believe the original codification was in 1967. I remember it only because that was the year of my birth. In 1967, when Chapter 42 of the Local Government Code was amended to create planning halos, it caused by operation of law ETJ to come into effect. And what that statute says is that every city's corporate limits will be surrounded by a halo to be known as an ETJ, and that halo is the function of the size of a city. So for a small community like Hickory Creek, the ETJ extends 1/2 mile from the corporate limits out into the county. With respect to large cities like Dallas, that ETJ extends 5 miles. So little cities have a 1/2 mile, and as they grow, that ETJ halo extends. ETJs cannot overlap unless they overlapped in 1967, and there was a process to clear that up. But today, as cities grow, their ETJ halo grows with them until that halo butts up against another community. Once the property, by operation of law, is in an ETJ, the controlling jurisdiction determines its fate. The state law makes clear that cities do not have zoning or land use authority in their ETJ, but they do have subdivision or platting authority in their ETJ. So cities have a limited amount of regulatory control in the ETJ. There are 2 types of cities: general law cities and home rule cities. A home rule city has a population of 5,000 or more, has held a charter election, and therefore has become home rule. Those types of cities, home rule cities, can involuntarily annex property, which means they have more control. Most little cities want to become home rule cities. By contrast, a general law city, Hickory Creek is a general law city, has a population of less than 5,000, and therefore has not been eligible to run a home rule charter election. General law cities are only permitted to do those things that are enumerated in law. By contrast, a home rule city can do anything not prohibited by law. As a result, home rule cities have much more authority than general law cities. So when cities start to grow, when the town of Hickory Creek says, I've got a population of 3,200, most leadership, I would submit to you, would want to get to that 5,000 mark or threshold so they can become a home rule city, have more control over their ETJ and other matters within their jurisdiction. Does that answer the question? Yes.
As a, just clarify, as a general law city, we don't have any authority to involuntarily annex property in the ETJ, unless we were studying it with water and sewer, which we have certain water and sewer, so that was certain on this property.
So as it stands,
We can't hear him.
As a general law city,
Move your computer over that way you can bring it up.
as a general law city, we don't have the authority to involuntarily annex property unless we were serving it with water and sewer, which we don't provide retail water and sewer service through the city. We contract with an outside entity for that. Therefore, until we become home rule, we will not have the capacity to involuntarily annex any property, including this property, unless we own it. We can annex what we own.
And just the reason that that's important is that in the ETJ, which is all of the north side of the property, most of the north side of the property, right now, if they were not here doing this agreement, asking to do this agreement with us, they could build anything they want to put out there. They could put 3,000 apartments if they would fit. Is that correct?
We couldn't control the use, correct. They would still be subject to our subdivision ordinance, so they'd still come to us for planning, just like they did if they entered into this agreement.
But they
We
could,
have no control over the land use.
but they could build and whatever they can fit out there.
Correct.
Thank you.
No newsletter, I mean, there hasn't been a decision made on it, there was nothing put in the newsletter. We don't usually post agendas in the newsletter because we don't know what those agendas are until about Friday noon on what we're gonna post for the Tuesday meeting. So to post those in the newsletter, they usually are printed once a quarter. There's nothing to print other than regular part of the meeting tonight.
Newsletters are normally for announcements of new ordinances and events, not what's on our regular agenda.
So, Misty, I believe Lance I spoke to you today about some other items that were a concern to the council in the agreement. You want to address those?
Yes, sir. I have a list, and I'll just take it from the top. The town inquired whether or not there was an opportunity to receive 100% of the sales tax generated from the commercial area in the ETJ. Currently, the town has no ability to collect sales tax in the ETJ. A district if created would also not have the ability to collect sales tax in the ETJ. So to the extent either one of us wants sales tax, we need each other. And that's why most of the agreements that I negotiate that provide for a limited purpose annexation for the collection of sales tax split that sales tax 50-50. And the last several versions of this document that this council has reviewed splits that sales tax 50-50. The council has expressed a concern regarding disannexing the small portion of the corporate limits north of Turbeville Road. In consideration for the council's support for disannexing the property currently in the corporate limits north of Turbeville Road and currently collecting taxes under an ag exempt status, the property owner would be willing to revise the agreement so that the town receives 60% of the sales tax and the district 40% of the sales tax.
So let me get that right. So you would like to still ask for that annexation
Yes, sir.
of that piece to make it one big plat, and then in return, that 50% goes up to 60% for the town.
Yes, sir.
But I guess my thing on that is that piece of property right now may be ag exempt at this point, but if it does go multifamily, of course the other one's going to go up on that piece, and that would be part of Hickory. Whether that 10% outweighs that Avalon increase is in question.
Okay, I agree, only time will tell. I would submit to you that the expectation of multifamily would be a higher intensity use, more appropriate to and market driven towards 2181 and not Turbeville. So I would expect the type of development that you would see just north of Turbeville would be a lower intensity use. In addition to that, I would submit to you that there is a burden to have a portion of a lot in the corporate limits and the balance in the ETJ. It creates a development hurdle not only for a property owner, but also for the staff in the community. When you've got a single lot that's partly in the corporate limits and partly in the ETJ, we start getting into an analysis of where's the cash register or where's the master bedroom. It just gets complicated from a development perspective. And that's why I think it's an appropriate amount of consideration to increase the sales tax to the city's side in exchange for the city releasing that small portion of their corporate limits north of Turbeville. Because not only do you get the benefit of the sales tax increase, you get the reduced administrative burden of trying to sort out a subdivision plat that has a dividing line between lots.
Council, how do you feel about that?
I don't feel comfortable with annexing any portion of our town limits. That's going to be a real stickler for me.
Next item.
The next item is with respect to a school site. There's been some discussion about whether there should be a dedication or a reservation of a school site. An elementary school typically takes, in my experience, 8 acres, sometimes a little more, but 8 acres is about the minimum. Given the school facilities currently available in this community and the projected head count, I don't believe it is appropriate to dedicate a school site. That, however, as development occurs, could be an issue that this council discusses with the ultimate developer.
What else?
With respect to the town's inquiry about whether or not the property owner would be willing to fund the legal expenses associated with negotiating this agreement, the developer agreed to do that, the property owner has agreed to do that. With respect to the term of the agreement, the initial term of 15 years with one 5-year automatic renewal, Subsequent renewal subject to approval by an owner in town. That we can revise the agreement to make that clear. I believe that's the intent. With respect to limiting the types of districts to a MUD with no ability to convert to another type of district or divide into 2 or more districts, we can make clear that the district doesn't have the ability to divide. I believe state law makes it clear already that the district cannot divide without this council's consent. With respect to limiting the type of district to a MUD, that is not a practical solution because a MUD cannot fund road infrastructure. And as a result, I need the flexibility to convert a MUD, if that is the district chosen, to the type of district that could help fund roads.
So you need the MUD component with the ability to convert to a road district.
Road utility district doesn't see an idea or legislature to create a district on my options. So we could say we'll initially create a MUD, and provided we make clear that we're not handcuffing the opportunity to convert that MUD into the type of district that picks up road powers.
Is that clear, Lance? Okay, legal expenses, got that, 64, you got that?
With respect to meeting the town's building code requirements, yes, the expectation is that we will meet the town's building code requirements, and if we bring it's not clear, I will make it more clear. The purpose of limited purpose annexation, otherwise town will not be obligated for any district expenditures or debts. I believe that's true as a matter of state law, but if we want to recite that state law, I'm happy to do that. Expense of a PID creation or other required action by the town under the agreement to be paid by owner, that is industry practice, and we don't have a problem including that. Purposes for which bonds issued limited to startup, design, construction, and defined public improvements, provide town with copies of district resolution authorizing issuance of bonds. We're happy to provide you with copies of any of the agreements that the district enters into, just like this council subject to Open Records Act, the district would be as well. I would refer you with respect to the limitations on bonds to Texas Water Code section 54.016A that reads, the city's consent shall not place any restrictions or conditions on the creation of non-city service districts as defined by chapter 54, other than those expressly provided in subsection E of this section, and shall specifically not limit the amount of the district's bonds. So I believe you are without authority under state law to contract for a limitation on the bonds. No annexation of additional land in the district without town consent. I believe that's state law, and if we need to recite it in the agreement, I'm happy to do that. Upon creation of the district, provide the town with confirmation that the district has assumed the obligations under the agreement. Happy to do that. We can put some timing into the agreement if that's important. If there's a default by the owner, the town should have some ability to terminate the agreement as to the portion of the property affected by the default. That is standard, and we'll update the remedies provision to include that. None of the land can be annexed into another city. That is, as a matter of law, true because it's in your ETJ. No additional land can be annexed by the district without town approval. That is, as a matter of law, true. Complements of state legislature, Texas Local Government Code Chapter 42, Texas Water Code Chapter 50.
Well, if we could just recite that, I mean,
Yes, sir.
in the event the law changes in the next 15 years.
Happy to recite.
Okay, other questions from the council? I think we need to go back to the piece of the disannexation, the council brought up, as well as the sales tax.